Good. I like the short slates. Love getting my collusion on the short slates.
Yeah, it's so much easier to cover
Me
all
and
the
my
bases.
girlfriend, like we're just firing, you know.
Well, I think that's why it's a big advantage to be Mormon on these slates is, basically any sort of polyamorous relationship is massive DFS edge. So I think that's got to be sort of the meta game for next season.
Yeah, no, just have a couple wives, couple girlfriends. Just be
and
lineups all day.
Honestly, just have friends, which is kind of where I'm at right now. Is just let's get to that step, and then we'll maybe I'll start winning.
It's pretty much the format, right? Like these 2 gamers, 6 gamers in NBA, like.
I know but the thing is, it's just incredibly hard to find friends. Like they're like, you just sit in your room and play DFS
That's
all day.
the toughest thing for like someone who plays DFS. I would imagine.
Exactly.
Like someone on a computer all day. You know
the Venn diagram of people who grind DFS and people who have like social relationships it's slim. The middle is slim.
So it makes it a lot more difficult.
Yeah. No, but it's probably why DFS is still such a skill-based game. That's why there's still an edge, is because
the better you are in making friends and getting your social circle bigger, like gives you a big edge on the field, I would say.
Yeah, it's like there are like really a few things I care about when looking at like DFS. Like I really just want to know like ownerships and like projections. And projections is something I can sort of mentally come up with. I wouldn't be any good at making ownership projections. Like I don't really need like I don't need like home away splits. Like there are a lot of like noise essentially. But like if there are edges you can find, it's really just getting very solid ownership and knowing how to leverage that and having friends. Like those are the big things. So
yeah, you just hit the nail on the head, dude. Wow.
Yeah. So we have the final slate, the Chiefs versus the San Francisco 49ers. It opened, it kind of depends on the book you're looking at. I've seen it as high as I believe like 55 or 55 and a half for the over under. That opened at 51 or 52, depending on your book, and it shot up pretty much right away. I don't know. I wasn't that surprised. I expected a lot of, you get so much public money in, like I'm thinking we'll get it.
That's where you got to be looking, like these bigger games, like especially keying in on like casinos like Pinnacle that pretty much taking the most money out of any casino. You see that they have the most accurate line. Then lines that are like slow to shift, you have to line shop and hit those lines. That's pretty much it's called betting steam, pretty much. So.
Yeah, and I think on this one, like I like the props on this game are so much fun. There are so many of them, and it's really such a major edge to have like a lot of different books to go to, because like with props, if you're betting props, they're already one of the more profitable ways, especially if you have a small budget to play with. And there's so much variance between books that you can get really sharp numbers at some places that you won't want to bet and really soft numbers at the others. So
yeah, I'm always looking at Pinnacle, and then I go from there. Bovada's always slow off Pinnacle. There's a ton that you can kind of leverage.
All right, so we have the showdown slate. I think we'll mostly be referencing DK pricing, just because like the way like I can't FD. Any big tournament on FD, you're guaranteed to chop first so many ways unless like some just dumb stuff happens.
FanDuel's been like tough in general, like just for pricing has just been completely off. But
yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm looking at too. Is like it feels like the optimal way to build on FanDuel, especially.
I get that's what you were getting at, but
yeah. Like to get like there are fewer roster spots first of all, which already makes it like more difficult to build these unique lineups that are not so far like just so bad, and like the MVP not multiplying your costs, so there's not like it's just like who would you have projected the most. It's I don't know. It's not the best, but I still think if you want to play it
upper format.
I think there's probably like a no disrespect to anybody who's playing on FanDuel though, but you probably get more casual players on FD, right?
I would imagine, especially with Barstool kind of backing them, you're getting Barstool money. That's amazing, by the way. That just in terms of what happened today, that casino is just going to make bank, man.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that good. I mean, good for whoever owners and investors in Barstool for making that cash, getting
how like you got to think about the user base, like
how. Oh yeah, no, and I mean it's like. I don't know the actual numbers, but just off the top of my head, like the user base they're acquiring it seems perfect for what is it? Penn? What's the actual name of the brand?
Penn. Oh shoot, I just bought a bunch of stock earlier today, pretty much like everyone else, I think.
Did you buy stock in? Who'd you buy stock in?
I bought it in Penn. One sec, sorry.
I know people are also talking about this is such a great start to the Showdown slate, but people are also talking about like there's a company that owns like a certain stake in DK.
Yeah, Penn National Gaming and Diamond Eagle, 2 stocks you should probably hop on.
Yeah.
Obviously, just because we're heading into some territory where it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar industry in terms of like gaming, and I don't know. That's pretty much just my thought process. Don't like take it as someone who's like an expert, but just seems like something I'm personally pretty bullish on both.
I mean, like for
and Diamond Eagle. Diamond Eagle changed to DK when DK goes public.
For you and me, at least, for I guess from my perspective too, I personally have like time of my life. I have life and sweat equity invested in this industry, so I can literally just put money in stock and just have like the trifecta of that.
Yeah, that's what you should be doing.
All right, let's hop into it. I forgot to mention we have KC favored by 1. I haven't 1.5. I haven't really seen that line move much. It's mostly been the total that moved. And I think those are pretty solid lines. I felt very good about KC versus Tennessee, taking the Tennessee side. I still would bet KC in this, but I feel much less confident. This feels like a pretty accurate line. So the way I'm playing DFS is just trying to cover different things that can happen within one standard deviation of this line being accurate.
Oh yeah, you're creating a narrative similar like DFS take in terms of Showdown. For one, I'm trying to pick my captains and then kind of build off that. It's just interesting. For me, I think that obviously guys are projecting pretty well. I keep seeing Garoppolo. I'd rather go to Mostert and Kittle, but it's just tough with how pricing's kind of where pricing's at to kind of get leverage on those guys. Love Tyreek as well. Who are you kind of choosing for your captain? Have you kind of thought about that?
Yeah, so my thoughts are I've kind of started working backwards from players I think are going to be over-owned relative to their chances of being the best captain spot. And I'm thinking because this game is probably going to have a lot of public money in the DFS sphere as well, I'll probably not be on Mahomes. Tyreek Hill is a guy who gets pretty hyped every week because people see him as this he's the quintessential in season long, he's a best ball guy. You got to play him a best ball. And then it's he's a tournament play. He's got to be a great tournament play. He's just a number 2 receiver at this point. He hasn't topped 100 yards in 10 games or something. Hasn't topped double digit targets over that same span. I think maybe people are outsmarting themselves by this is a good Tyreek game. He just doesn't get the ball that much these days.
Are you leveraging the 3 TDs and just kind of hoping that just because he hasn't seen the volume that people are just going to be all over? Honestly, I think you can go the passing game in terms of San Fran, but I'm more bullish on San Fran to win the game than I am the Chiefs. I know the majority of the public's on the Chiefs, I'd imagine, right?
I believe so. I'd have to check, but
pull up just where the money's at and trying to do that now, but I'm not connecting to Wi-Fi and I don't know what's going on my phone right now.
It's not super public on the Chiefs.
85% of the money's on the over and 56% is on KC. That's just according to Fantasy Labs.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. So the money isn't as split the over is just getting smashed by everyone. So KC public, but not by a crazy amount, not 70-30 or anything.
Yeah. Well, the KC has the largest percentage of the bets at 59%. That would be the public. The money is where the sharp money's on. The sharp money's on KC as well, at 56%. I don't know. For me, I like the San Fran side for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think so. If you like the San Fran side, for me, George Kittle controls so much of this offense that I would be well overweight on him, and he's been pretty not that good. It was the same thing we've talked about with the Titans, where they weren't really challenged offensively, so they didn't have to throw. In that last game, they did have to throw. Same thing with the San Francisco team. Nobody's stacked up to them. They haven't even come close. So Kittle's posted 3 games in a row that were pretty disappointing. The one before that was a 5 for 79 in one game. He hasn't gone over 20 in what was this, like 5 weeks? But assuming that this game plays out anywhere close to the game script Vegas expects, I think he's one of the stronger captain plays.
So I think it's just totally, for me, like I just have to go off of, like I'm bullish on San Fran. So guys like Mostert, guys like Kittle. My thing is, I think the best way to attack San Fran personally is to kind of run it down their throat. I mean, the best way to attack KC. So in that scenario, and it would also fit like the more under-owned game script would be having just Mostert, Kittle basically blocking for Mostert like we see in the Green Bay game. And I think they can kind of take advantage of just Kansas City's front line. So I'm bullish on Mostert. I like Kittle in terms of like where I'll be with the field. Like I just want to pull up where his ownership is. I imagine it's pretty high, especially if people expect them playing from behind. He's at 47%. Kelsey 43.
Slate, like 47% is really not that high. Like what's Kelsey and Mahomes?
Kelsey's 43. I'm just going off RG's ownership. Kelsey's 43%. Mostert's around 40. Tyreek Hill's 39. Yeah, it's a one-game slate. So like these aren't like I think low ownership would be like getting a guy, and I don't really want to go there with Sammy Watkins, but a guy who's going to be around like 26% is relatively low ownership on a one-game slate. Kendrick Bourne would at 4. They have him around like 15%. That's pretty low as well.
Yeah, so I think a big question is like paying down at receiver. Your options are like paying pretty far down is like Demarcus Robinson, McCole Hardman, and Kendrick Bourne is probably the guys. Let me see Sammy Watkins' price. Yeah, he's not necessarily paying down. Where you get Kendrick Bourne 34, let's see, Demarcus 26, and McCole 22. Those are sort of, I think one of those guys is going to be like I don't know, I won't say the smash, but it's probably pretty viable that one of those guys makes like the optimal lineup or the tournament winning lineup. And if you think the 49ers are going to win this game, like you like their side, I don't know if I'm looking to Bourne. Like Bourne has excelled in games, or at least, excelled in games where they keep it very close. And, he's like a close to negative game script guy. So would you be looking at a guy like McCole Hardman in that case? Or
I think McCole Hardman's probably one of the better value plays at 2,200 on the slate. And then you're pretty much like, for me, that would be a differentiated way to kind of incorporate basically McCole Hardman, like what could end up being chalk and cash games, and pretty much by just maybe being less on Kittle and more bullish on the San Fran running game with, like I said, Mostert, and maybe one of the receivers like Samuel or Sanders. Like I'm saying, I want to fade Kittle, but we see like when San Fran has a lead, they're fine with just leaving Kittle to be a blocker essentially. And in that game script, I think you get a lot of leverage there because he's obviously going to be very highly owned, and the Vegas game script has them chasing. So.
Yeah, I think Hardman's probably going to be, of those three guys, like very clearly the chalk. Like I've seen, I don't know, maybe it's just the Twitter sphere bubble.
It's just his price, right? Like it's a pricing play. Like that's.
I mean, I assume Demarcus Robinson is out, like on the totality of the season, has well outproduced him. But the thing is, last week, for the first time since week 11, and only like the third or maybe even the second time all season, McCole Hardman ran more routes than him. By like I think it was like by 4 routes. So potentially a changing of the guard there, but I think everybody knows that. Like I've seen, I don't know, maybe it's Twitter sphere, but I've seen everybody point out that like, and I think people want it to happen because McCole Hardman is the young flashy thing.
Yeah, it makes sense in the Super Bowl too, but you could say the same thing for Debo as well.
Yeah, I think these are guys that people want to happen maybe more than the ownership is worth. Like, I think you're going to get a large discrepancy of ownership between Cole and DeMarcus. And are we that sure that that's what their roles are flipped all of a sudden?
No, I get that. That's where, like, if you think that McColl's going to come in and turn, I just want to pull up where Hardman's ownership is going to be at. Like Hardman's, if he's around 27%, and then you have DeMarcus down at 9%. Like, yeah, there's obviously if you want to be more bullish on DeMarcus, like that's fine. The thing with DeMarcus is he's 3.9 where McColl's 22. Like that's why McColl is priced higher than DeMarcus. I mean, that's why his ownership is higher than DeMarcus. But yeah, if you want to be double the field on DeMarcus and maybe be less on so like for me, like I said, like I like Chiefs passing games. I just like the Chiefs passing games. So I don't mind getting exposure to both these guys and being overweight on both of these guys.
Yeah, so I guess this all started.
I wouldn't play them together. I'd pretty much set a rule in MME.
I think I would be looking to
one of both.
Yeah, I'd be looking to run one of them, obviously Mahomes, and then one of the high-end Chiefs players, Kittle or not Kittle, Kelsey.
I think it's Kelsey. I think you'd probably go Kelsey in that scenario. And I think you have to set rules with Kelsey and Tyreek as well, just because they eat into each other's usage so much. Like if Tyreek goes off, it's Kelsey usually. Tyreek hurts the other weapons within the Chiefs' offense if he goes off. So if you're rostering one of these guys, like if you're rostering one of Kelsey or if you're rostering Tyreek, you're probably setting a rule against Kelsey, and then it could be the other way around as well. If you're rostering Kelsey, you're probably not rostering Tyreek.
Yeah, so I think with that, my captain pool will probably be relatively small. I would be thinking probably both tight ends, Kelsey, Kittle. I mean, I'd be interested if I'm going to play McColl, maybe just firing him into the captain, especially because he has that same like Tyreek-esque like 2 plays and he gets there.
He doesn't have the usage though. That's the thing that would make me a little nervous, right? Like I want in my captain spot, I want the highest usage guy. Like Mostert for me just seems like a really good captain play. I know he's coming off the 3 times. Like I don't care in that regard. Like just the way I personally see the game going, like I think they're going to run it down their throat. So if Mostert's at like 40%, I don't mind being double the field. I don't mind. I don't want to say locking him, but that's like I could be like easily double. 80% is fine for me with Mostert. Yeah, I could lock him for that matter.
Yeah. So I guess that leaves us with just a few more things. Defense kicker. If you think this game is closer, then I guess if it's more even, if it's going to be lower scoring, if you'd be betting the under, kickers would be in play. But for me, I think this I think it's going to be a high scoring game, and Vegas clearly thinks the same, and so do the sharp money and the public money. So for me, that kind of rules out the kickers for the most part, because in these higher scoring games, kickers don't tend to find their way into the optimal lineup because they don't have access to touchdowns and they don't have access to big splash plays.
Yeah, they just don't have the ceiling. It's funny though that you mentioned that, because Butker is coming out as a really good value in most lineups. But like you said, with the money being so heavily on the over, do we really want to risk like having a kicker in our lineups and giving up too much within our exposures to a kicker? I think Butker would probably be someone I would consider, but I think I'd definitely probably have some Butker. I definitely have more Butker than Robbie Gould, but I think both are actually okay plays. With the money being on the over, I'd be a little hesitant to like basically not have that ceiling there, though, that you get from a regular positional player.
So what do you think of the defense in this game? Because actually that's one thing that I'm sort of wavering on, is that I don't even know. There are so many playmakers on both sides of the ball in this game that I don't even know if like having a major high scoring game would kill them, because I come back to a handful of games where like the Houston Kansas City game most recently, like anytime you get a lot of plays run against quarterbacks who could be taking sacks, or I guess also with defenses that can generate a lot of sacks, a lot of plays is just a lot of opportunities for them to get sacks, turnovers, etc. So I wouldn't hate, I think it'd be contrarian to run a defense and then the rest of your lineup be built around a high score.
So I personally love the correlation of Mostert and San Fran D, especially with the money being on the over, especially with everyone on KC. Like it's just such a differentiated build. Like there's a big advantage if you kind of go that route, I feel like, and you say you get a San Fran defensive touchdown. Just kind of the way I like that. I think that's a really interesting build, just to be like different. I'll probably be, if I I think I'm gonna have a lot of Mostert in the captain, or I'll probably correlate them with San Fran D.
So right now we don't know the status of Tevin Coleman, but it does appear like he's going to play. I mean, like I don't know in what capacity he will be able to play, even if he does suit up. Like he was like struggling to get off the field with his shoulder injury, like just so much pain. I think it was a limited practice participant in practice, and they said basically it's just a pain tolerance issue. I still think like I wouldn't in the Super Bowl. Would you, if you are Kyle Shanahan, would you want your running back to be dealing with like a serious, what was like a dislocated shoulder? There was like no ligament damage or anything. Like it just, I guess, pop it back in.
Yeah. In that scenario, like I just think that, like for me, it's just I'll just wait for the coach speak. I don't mind rostering two San Francisco running backs. I think that's actually another way to be different. It's just a matter of usually in this situation, I would rather like Coleman be out and then like I could play Breda.
Yeah, I think maybe that is a decent gamble to make, even if Coleman is active. Just if he's active, but more of a reserve running back than like their third down back.
Well, you can take that risk in MME. If you're just running one lineup, it's kind of a little bit more difficult, right? Like, but I guess we're talking multi-entry. I like Debo if like Coleman, if we get word that like Coleman's like hurting, I think Debo really comes into play because we've seen him like take end arounds and be involved in the running game as well as the passing game. And if I think Kittle is someone that you can take a stand on and turn, like I really think you have to key in on Kittle because Kittle's going to be someone who's going to be extremely highly owned within the scenario. And if you just take a pretty solid stand on Kittle and the 49ers get a lead earlier, like Kittle might not see his ceiling. And if he doesn't see his ceiling, then you have tremendous leverage on the field. So I think that there's definitely you can definitely make a case to fade Kittle in this situation and kind of hope that the 49ers running game takes over. But it should shoot out. Like we have the over. Everything's pointing towards like I wouldn't mind like being with the field on Kittle. I wouldn't say a full fade or below the field.
Yeah, I mean to that, like I was on Kittle last, I guess it was 2 weeks ago now.
It was like an easy play. Like everyone's going to be on Kittle.
Yeah, he almost got like he legit was, I think, like at 0 through halftime to like 3 quarters because they don't need to use him. Yeah. Like he had that floor because of how they would need to use him, not because he's a bad play or a bad player. It's just like if the game goes like the 49ers want it to go, he might see the ball 3 times.
Their zone running scheme so like intricate. It's interesting. I just don't think that KC has enough up front. Like if I was not like you're trying to get, you can't assume rational coaching, but with Kyle Shanahan, you kind of can, right? Like he's probably one of the most he's one of the better coaches in the league. If not, he's like top 3 in my book. So I don't know. I just feel like he's just going to try to run the ball early. Like it's the best. It would be the best in terms of like keeping Mahomes off the field. So I like the idea of maybe not being as heavy on Kittle as everyone else.
Yeah, so I guess a few more things we can talk about. One would be like it sounds like you like Debo more. I like Debo more too. Like he's just clearly moved into the first receiver, second role of the team, and he has that rushing equity. And it's not like it's much more than Tyreek Hill rushing equity. It's not like maybe he gets a carry or not. It's really how many carries does he get and does he break one?
They give him like 3 or 4. They give him 3. Yeah, I could see him at 4 is kind of pushing it. I could see him getting 2 or 3. You know what I mean? Like I don't think he'll just get 1. So
yeah, and just the amount of plays that are going to be run in this game would be more favorable to them getting more plays on offense, i.e. getting him the ball more. He had the 3rd most rushing yards for a rookie receiver ever. Like they find inventive ways to get him the ball, and he makes the most of them.
Yeah, that's the other thing when we talk about like volume of plays, right? Like a lot of people with the money being so heavy on the over, they're going to like go away from the defense. And I think like rostering a San Fran defense or a KC defense versus the quarterback and having the quarterback in the same lineup and showdown is actually another really solid way to differentiate in MME. If Garoppolo, I don't mind having the Chiefs defense, or Mahomes, I definitely don't mind having the San Fran defense. That would kind of work that build structure with Mahomes, Hardman, maybe a Kelsey, and then Mostert, San Fran D. I don't know. I'm not trying to give away I don't know.
You could hypothetically, that's something one could run.
Yeah, it's just I feel like that's like a differentiated I don't know, build in terms
Yeah,
of where everyone is going, where we can kind of pivot and go the other way.
I kind of like the KC defense in terms of I like both defenses are very viable and will be very unique relative to like their chances of hitting the upside in a game with a lot of plays. Both defenses, a lot of playmakers. I will target the lesser of the quarterbacks anytime I'm choosing to play a defense. And like he's Jimmy Garoppolo is fine. He's obviously not Patrick Mahomes. He's fine. He averaged like a 8.3 adjusted yards per attempt, which is pretty good. But he was also sacked at like a 7% rate this year. Didn't throw a ton of picks, but I still think that's in the range of outcomes. He's just not like the athlete either. But both defenses very much in play. And of course, you can always go McCole Hardman double dip with the defense.
Yeah, higher vol. Yeah, exactly. Ooh, that was higher volume higher amount of plays, like more opportunity for the defense to score TDs. So I think the defenses are really a good way to kind of, with all the money being on the over.
Yeah, they're going to be
being overweight on these defenses and having the opposite quarterback in the same lineup is a pretty strong differentiator in MME.
Yeah, if you're playing I don't know what the largest single entry contest is. I can pull it up real quick. But like, even if you're playing those, just like, chopping, how many ways could you possibly chop first place? Like, in a large contest, imagine chopping at 100, 150, 200. It was like the one guy that ran 150 Blake Bell lineups a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I get you.
So yeah, I think running that the defense opposing quarterback stack is viable.
Defense opposing quarterback is like the way to go in this game. Like, it just seems like the way. Usually in Showdown, like especially when you have so many casuals that will be like, oh, this probably isn't the best idea. Like, I just think you can get away with it.
Yeah, it is.
It's definitely a really strong differentiator in Showdown.
Yeah, I would say it's unviable enough to outweigh how few people are going to run it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the last kind of things I want to talk about, we have any really low price guys you're interested in. I'll name off a few of them. I'm looking at guys like Blake Bell, I don't want to say relatively involved, getting a target or two every game until like last week where he didn't. He was still on the field, just didn't happen to get targeted. But he saw like two targets, 3, 2, and of course he had the one touchdown on his lone catch 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago or 2 games ago against the Texans. So like definitely in play. Other guys would be, if you think the 49ers are going to be losing, Kyle Juszczyk, very viable. Outside of that, I don't know, your low price guys are like getting to McCole Hardman at that point. It's so hard to get away from McCole Hardman. He's just a really good play for his price. Yeah,
it's really difficult to get away from Hardman. And for Bell at 800, like I guess it's fine. We hit on DeMarcus. He's going to come in at a lot less ownership than McCole Hardman. Oh, I made a mistake earlier. Hardman is it? I'm sorry. I'm just trying to. No, DeMarcus is 400 more. He's at 2,600, not 34. I read that wrong. Kendrick Bourne's at 3,400. I think a lot of people probably go to Kendrick Bourne. I feel like he'll be pretty popular as well in San Fran bills, especially like if they're stacking Garoppolo and playing the game script that San Fran's playing from behind. I don't love it. I'd rather just kind of differentiate. He's kind of a high variance receiver, Kendrick Bourne, and if he's going to garner a ton of ownership, maybe going in the other direction isn't the worst play.
So I guess Kyle Juszczyk is a guy like, I don't think in your game script like that you project the San Francisco to win, there's really any way you play him. But like in a game script where you expect them to lose, like I do think he has multi reception upside. So like I personally think KC wins this game. So he's a guy maybe I'd be looking to.
Whole country seems to kind of think KC is going to win this game.
But I want it. So bad.
I don't know. They definitely could. Mahomes is probably the best player on the field. I don't know. Like the San Fran side.
Yeah. So really like the last player I would even consider is any interest in Darwin Thompson. And that assumes that LaShawn McCoy doesn't play, was inactive last week, maybe the week before that. Over the past 3 weeks, he literally has 1 snap. So even if he's active, he is not a part of the game.
Yeah. 1,800. I guess you can kind of make that case. In MME, yeah, sure, fine.
Yeah, I actually think like so in a scenario, I would say if LaShawn McCoy is inactive,
If he's inactive, yeah, definitely someone.
like on the off chance that Damian Williams gets hurt or they just choose to like he fumbles once and Andy Reid decides to give him like rest, not bench him entirely, but like that puts a lot of upside into Darwin Thompson low owned for 1,800. I think the only way you do that though is if we find out McCoy is going to be inactive.
No, I'm 100% with you. I think that would be the only way that you can kind of do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've mentioned at least every single player like projected to score fantasy points. So I don't know. With that, I think that'll send us home. You got any final thoughts?
No, I think the bet's Kate. I think the bet's San Fran. I'm on San Fran. If you're playing showdown, you get a swerve. You have to swerve. So
Definitely have to swerve. I think we've talked about pretty much all the lanes to do that in. So everybody, thanks for watching all season. I'm sure you'll find us around. Find Bobby at Bobby Gomes DFS and find myself at Kyle Tweets here. Everybody, thanks for tuning in for the Super Bowl breakdown, and everybody who stopped in at any point this season, thanks for watching.
yeah, thanks guys. Appreciate it.